Testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3.
Testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3. Hi everyone, my name is Barry Chong and I'm a freelance cinematographer based here in Toronto, Canada. Hope everyone had a relaxing holiday season and a productive 2022. As we began 2023, I decided that I wanted to start vlogging some of my day-to-day journeys as a working DP. The ups, the downs, thoughts that I have, and day-to-day sort of stuff. The kind of work I do is mainly in commercials and branded content, working often in smaller crews. I'm also an owner-operator, so managing equipment is also part of my business. I've noticed that there seems to be a growing interest in this kind of content, showing the nuance of being a working professional, and my hope is that I can contribute to this community, if even in a small way. If you've been to this page in the past, the videos will be a little different to the very small amount of videos I did back then. The whole idea is to make this as easy for me to complete and to keep the focus on the content and less about the overall production value. I look forward to whatever community might come of this, so if you're returning to this page or a new viewer, thank you for being here and tuning in. All right, first official Monday of the new year. Trying to get off to a good start. First order of business today is to assess this new kit that I'm trying to build. Aperture was kind enough to send me a F22 kit. I had been curious about this fixture for a while. In the meantime, I got a little bit of anxiety and ended up buying a second kit before this one showed up. There was a bit of a delay. I ended up buying another kit because there was a sale on one, and so I just sort of picked up one locally. So now I have two to sort of take a look at, which is kind of the way I'm going to want to do it anyway, just because I think it wants to be a two-light kit. The main thing is to have it replace my two, or be an option to my two SO1 DMGs. Oftentimes I'm just pushing those lights through an 8x piece of full grid or half grid, and I really just was looking for something to be a little bit lighter. So hopefully this is an option. Also, I wanted to sort of see if I could get it packed into this case. This is an old 120D Mark II aperture case, which was actually made by SKB cases, and this had a 3-light aperture 120D Mark II light kit in it. So I'm looking just to see if I can utilize this case. The great thing with this case is that it fits into a specific slot in my van. So I'm trying to see if I can build out these two fixtures into this case. So we'll see how that goes. So the idea here is to get as much into this case as possible. So on top of the two F22Cs, I want to try to leave some space in this case to also put maybe a couple of smaller hard lights. Either I have an Aperture 60X that could maybe go here. Eventually I want to replace all my mono and bicolor lights with full color. So right now the idea is to stack these two F22Cs on top. The great thing with flex lights is that, of course, they are really, really thin. So I would try to stack the two F22 lamp heads themselves on top of this case. And I'll try to do this with one hand as best as I can. And then underneath, the thought was to put all the components. So right now I have the two controllers, the two extension headers, the two power connectors, the two X brackets, as well as the power supplies. Now, unfortunately, the soft dividers that came with this case that were meant for the 3-light 120D Mark II kit aren't Velcro removable like typical. It's actually a stitched divider system, which was configured specifically for 120D Mark IIs. So unfortunately that won't really work. I could probably buy, I think SKB case will sell me a pattern divider case, which I think is actually made by Think Tank, but it's like, I don't know, almost $300 Canadian. I don't really want to spend that kind of money. So I think the idea is going to be to get some coroplast, which I often use to make, little cases and little customizable carry things for my kit, is to get a bunch of that stuff, coroplast, and make up my own little divider set. Okay, new game plan. So I actually decided to revisit the notion of using the included padded dividers that came with this case, which again is purpose-built for the 120D Mark IIs. So what I think I might do now is just decide to just cut the stitching out of here. What I like about this is that it gives me an existing structure to work with. It gives me a padded floor and gives me a surrounding structure that I can use to ground the dividers to. So, because if I didn't have this, I effectively would, which was the initial plan, was to build a fully coroplast divider set, which would mean I'd have to build an outer perimeter as well as provide some kind of floor. So this way, all I have to do now is make dividers out of the coroplast as opposed to a whole structure. So I finished cutting out the dividers where it was stitched before, and actually fairly minimal damage on the actual structure here. Most of the tear away happened on the divider side, so it's actually fairly clean. So I'm pretty happy with that. So now I've got this overall structure, outer perimeter and padded bottom to start from instead of having the whole thing built from coroplast. So I think this is going to be more or less the layout here. I'm going to put the cables on the bottom. This is the bottom of the case, so I'll keep that on the bottom so the controllers aren't banging around on the very edge. Have the two controllers here, two power supplies, and the X brackets. And I've just got a piece of coroplast here, temporary piece, just to get a feel for what the mock-up and divisions and dimensions have to be. And then what I like about this is that it gives me a good amount of height on top of the stuff to put the actual lamp heads. Because previously, if I had used the existing dividers and put the lamp heads just on top, there was a bit of a pinch point because the lamps would have been sitting right at this edge, and it would have been an issue potentially for the lid in terms of having a pinch point to either clamp down on the LEDs or clamp down on the header cables, which cannot be removed from these lamps. I think the next step is to go and get some foam, because I opened up I took a look at the actual divider that these guys make, and all it is actually is coroplast, some foam sandwiched around it, and a material stitched over it. So I think I'm going to probably do the same thing. So I'm going to get some foam and figure out my dimensions and start making some dividers. So I've decided that this is probably what I need to put on the dividers. This is 2mm thick adhesive EVA foam, which is just kind of a thin membrane sort of foam. But what's nice about this is it's got a sticky back, like an adhesive sticky back, so I don't have to deal with like 3M spray glue to get it adhered to the coroplast. So I'm going to order this, and once this gets in, I'll make up some dividers. So this is the final layout a few weeks later after a couple of jobs. Had to make a couple small tweaks just to hold some of the smaller dividers in place. They would come loose after jostling around in the truck a little bit, but overall I'm quite happy. All right, see you guys in the next one.